Welcome back. We are joined today by Professor Seyed Mohammad Marandi, a professor from Tehran University and also a former advisor to Iran's nuclear negotiation team. So thank you for coming back on.
Hi, Glenn. Thank you very much for having me. It just shows how much I like your show because I went through a lot of trouble to get online.
Well, I appreciate it very much. And I guess what you're referring to is the internet connections
That's right.
in reference to the different riots which have been going on in different cities in Iran, including Tehran then. It does seem, though, that every time there's a build-up to another regime change operation or invasion, it almost every time follow the exact same script, though. That is, first you destabilize the society with sanctions and an information war. Then you build on the grievances of the public and instigate violent protests. You announce the intention to help or support the locals in their aspirations for freedom, against their own government, of course. And the rhetoric is always dumbed down to a binary choice. Either you don't care about the struggle for freedom and the aspiration of brave protesters, or you support the sanctions and or military intervention. So, and after the coup or invasion, it turns out the US and its allies actually had some zero-sum geopolitical interest and power interest, as opposed to solely acting out of altruism and love of freedom. Uh, but almost every time, the result is always the same from the Arab Spring and onward. That is, the country which was to be liberated is instead destroyed. So we've all seen this movie before, which is why it's my position that Iranians can of course protest the government all they want, but this is an internal Iranian issue, and as soon as it becomes an international issue, then you can't really keep the geopolitics out. But sorry for the very long prelude to the question. So,
Yeah.
how do you assess, though, the situation now there on the ground in Tehran? What are the domestic grievances, and what is the geopolitical component here?
Well, first I should point out that every once in a while, every few years, the West, Western media, Western pundits, think tanks, leaders say that Iran is on the verge of collapse. And every time people like myself come and say that it's not going to happen, the state has popular support, the Constitution is something that a very strong majority of Iranians adhere to, and your assessments are based on wishful thinking. And every single time, they'll say you're a mouthpiece for a dying regime or something like that. And then it's like a loop. It goes over and over every 2, 3 years, 3, 4 years, 4, 5 years. Now, what's happening now is that basically we had a sudden fall in the currency. I don't know what percent, but let's say 40, 50% item in a somewhat brief period of time, maybe 30%. I'm not sure because I don't follow the currency rate. But it was a surprise fall. And it turns out that it was managed from abroad. In other words, the United States and its Western allies put pressure on those places that do currency exchange with Iran. So for a period of time, there was a lot of difficulty. Then, because the currency dropped significantly, we had in Tehran and some other places protests, not very large, few thousand, I guess. Again, I don't know the numbers, but let's say a few thousand. And they were peaceful. And why were they protesting? They're basically business people who had shops, who bought and sold. And their argument was that, look, if you don't stabilize the currency, we're going to go out of business because we sell goods and then suddenly the price goes up and we can't buy new goods to put in our shops. That to put it simplistically, because that's my because I'm not an economist. The protests went on peacefully. No one was arrested. No one was hurt. The police did not intervene. Nothing happened. And then we saw day two. On day two, the protests continued. Probably the same number of people, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less in Tehran. Not in most cities, but in maybe a couple of the bigger cities. Then we had infiltration. Suddenly, we had these small groups of people, and we had this 4 years ago as well. Small groups of people, very well disciplined, very well organized, began to infiltrate the protests and began rioting. And they were very violent. Over the past few days, over 100 officers of the law have been murdered. Some of them have been beheaded or burned alive or smashed, their faces and heads smashed by these people. So in the United States, we have in a case where sorry, someone came and says, "Oh, internet okay?" And I say, "Yes, it's fine." So in the United States, you had the case of a woman being shot in the head by an ICE of- official or officer, and we saw what happened in the United States. Here, and the argument goes that she was about to run him down or run over him. And the argument is whether she pulled to the right or not, or enough, or, They murdered over 100 officers of the law. They burned alive a young woman who was inside a clinic. She was a nurse. They burned down the building. She went to the top floor, but she still couldn't escape. They burned down they murdered a person from the Red Crescent. They murdered a lot of people, ordinary people on the streets, a 3-year-old girl. Lots of people. They died. No one knows how they died. A surgeon told me that a lot of the injuries that he's dealt with because he was uh, I don't know what it's called in English, but I guess a trauma surgeon or something like that. Anyway, he deals with these things. He said that in his hospital, someone else, another physician also said this, that people were shot with handguns, pistols, and at short range. And it was clear that these people were not just burning down buildings; they burned down many public buses. They destroyed many um, what do you call them? Sorry, ambulances, but also fire engines. They burned down many the damage that they caused across the country in just a few days, in 3-4 days, is massive. And they were very vicious. Now, in the West, they can claim that these are peaceful protesters and they can ignore all the footage that people are putting out. And Western media, of course, is ignoring all of it. But today, Monday, across the country, we had demonstrations protesting against the rioters, against the terrorists, and in support of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Constitution. Anyone can go and look at the footage. These protests were across the country in every single city. So people could not, it wasn't as if people go from one city to another and gather in one place. Each city has its own. So people can look at the crowds in Isfahan, in Tabriz, in Ahvaz, in Mashhad, and anywhere. And they were unbelievably large. And in Tehran, probably from what I've seen, this is the largest gathering of people that we've ever had before, quite possibly. So people can't deny what was shown on television. They can go to, they can go to Press TV, the Press TV Twitter account. My Twitter account has a couple. Whenever I get into a studio, since I don't have internet, so we can only get Iranian websites right now. So when I want to do a tweet, when I come to a studio, quickly do it, and then when I go out, I can't do it anymore. So because I don't have my own connection for the time being, just like everyone else. But the point is that despite all the riots and despite the enormous propaganda, you have this empire, media empire in Persian, based in Western countries that include many TV channels. Some say in the hundreds. I don't know. I don't watch them. They have yeah, infinite number of websites, Twitter accounts. They have Twitter armies. They have online armies. They have bots. They have everything, and Telegram channels. Everything. They outgun the Iranian state media by far. And I assume every year billions of dollars are invested in it because they they pay for 3 or 4 thousand people in Albania who are in a camp there who day and night they're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and whatever else there is out there. I only have a Twitter account. Everything else has been shut down by the my Facebook account and Instagram. So I only have Twitter. I don't know much about the other platforms. But in any case, the point is they're spending billions of dollars a year on psychological warfare, and they try to create economic hardship. That's what the maximum pressure sanctions are. And then today you have these crowds on the streets, and Western media tries to hide the facts that many millions of people are on the streets today. Many millions. I don't know the numbers, but many millions across the country.
Well, there's
And no one has to take my word for it. They can just go through the footage, city after city. Just look at the crowds and assess for themselves if this is something that happens in their countries or not.
yeah, I've seen those marches as well, the protests, well, in support of the government, and yeah, they're huge indeed. I haven't seen them on our news channel here yet, though, in Europe, but maybe they're
Don't
just
bet
there.
on it being shown on any of them.
Yeah.